You guys, Pam Grier was recently on The View, and this woman looked into a national camera and claimed that as a child, she saw people strung up from trees lynched, just hanging from trees in Ohio. And her mama said, baby, don't look. Don't look. Y'all. Ooh, child, listen. Pam Grier was born in 1949, not 1849, not during Reconstruction, not even during Jim Crow. 1949. And when she said that, you know them lying libtards on The View. Do you know what you heard? This is what you heard. You got the crickets. Okay, nobody on that panel blinked, questioned her, raised an eyebrow. Nobody asked, "Oh, Pam, well, what year was this? What city did this happen in?" No one asked for a single verifiable detail. They just let this foolishness ride and just let her emote with this fake story. Because here's what I've realized. When it comes to the left, when it comes to these race narratives, y'all, these people are liars. Yes, I said it. Liberals, especially the colored ones, yes, they are a bunch of liars. These people are not honest. I sat and I listened to this and I said, girl, bye. If you don't get up off this darn TV, y'all, let's get into this. Greetings and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman as we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. So, all right, you guys, before I go any further, I actually need you guys to hear this foolishness for yourself. Let's go ahead and listen to this clip.
Well, let me ask you this, because you've been the first so many times, but you were the first Black woman on the cover of Miss Magazine in 1975. You paved the way for Black female representation in the stunt industry as well. But before breaking all those barriers in Hollywood and other places, you faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, Ohio. How did that shape you?
Whew. Well, the military wouldn't allow Black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there was someone hanging from a tree. And they have a memorial for it now, where you can see where people were and left. And it triggers me today to see that a voice can be silenced. And if a white family supported a Black, they're gonna get burned down or killed or lynched as well.
Yeah.
Pam, you've done too many.
I can't. First of all, the question that was asked was, you experienced a lot of racism growing up, and how did that shape you? Now, there are so many individuals that I personally know who actually grew up in the Jim Crow South, not Columbus, Ohio, but like the South, the deep South. And when you hear a Black liberal recount their experiences and how it shaped them, and a Black conservative who experienced probably legitimate oppression and discrimination and how it shaped them, you get a very different shareable narrative. On one side, you're going to hear a whole lot of victimhood and trauma and just, it still triggers them to this day. Yet the other side, when you hear them talk of their experience, either you're going to hear them talk about how it shaped them in the sense of making them resilient, making them incredibly fierce and bold, and force them to work even harder and to be twice as good and to be better, just to demonstrate that you may think you're putting a roadblock in my way, but watch me. Watch me blow right past your roadblock and just completely dismantle all that it is you thought you assumed about me on the basis of my ethnicity. But here, you had Pam Grier on The View making a claim that this should have triggered immediate scrutiny. This woman didn't just embarrass herself. Y'all, you know it's bad. It's bad to be old and stupid. Okay, like the older you get, the wiser you're supposed to become, but not the black liberal. Oh no, they are perpetually stuck on stupid. And what you notice, it tends to get worse like the older they get. Like if you look at somebody like a Whoopi Goldberg, she gets dumber the older she gets. And I am so disappointed to see Pam Grier, who absolutely broke barriers when all kinds of roadblocks were in her way. It is disappointing to see this woman become the age that she is and to be less wise and more stupid. But in addition to her embarrassing herself here, she also exposed the entire system that I've noticed rewards Black victimhood and punishes Black people who actually tell the truth. Like, to be liked and accepted on The View, Pam Grier had to leave there being a victim. She had to leave there being one, believing that she was herself, and making sure she conveyed to the listening audience that, yes, no matter how many barriers I broke, how many records I set, I am still a victim. Y'all, this is what the white liberal establishment, they need this. They need Blacks to have victimhood as their default position, no matter how successful they've become. This is what keeps the grievance industry going. This woman was Foxy Brown. Do you understand? Like, breaking barriers and having everyone wanting to be her. She was the it girl. But the real issue here isn't just what Pam said. It's the fact that The View allowed it to go completely unchallenged. And when you sit there and you watch them with solemn looks on their face, like, oh, how sad. Oh, how utterly unfortunate that is for you. We see how it still bothers you today. Notice she never answered the question in terms of how it shaped her. All she did was retell a reimagined story and talk about how it triggers her to this day, but not how it has impacted her ability to bust through ceilings in places that would allegedly barred entry because of her skin color. Do you realize if a white guest made such a historically inaccurate claim about slavery or lynching or something else, they would have been fact-checked in real time. They would have had graphics and footnotes pulled up on the screen. A whole commercial break intervention would have taken place. But when a Black celebrity says something this wild and this uncredible, everybody just nods their head and affirms and just pulls out. They pull out the baby violin. Everyone just starts protecting the narrative because trauma is currency to the left. Y'all, listen. I don't know why anybody at this point believes that The View is a talk show. Y'all, this is not a talk show. It's not even a discussion panel. It's not that. It's not a panel. I wouldn't even categorize this as journalism. It is left-wing propaganda. And it is designed to simply reinforce 3 lies. Here they go. Lie number 1, they want to perpetuate the idea that America is just irredeemably racist and that we will never, they ain't gonna never let us move past it. That's one thing that they want to absolutely drive home. Number 2, Black people, we're just perpetual victims. And no matter what they do, no matter how much money they make, no matter how many roadblocks they overcome, you could be Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Foxy Brown, and all you'll ever be is a weak, traumatized, perpetual victim. Number 3, if you question the narrative in any way, that makes you the problem. You're the problem. So when Pam Grier spins this story that feeds the grievance economy that these people are transacting in, you don't need to verify it. You don't even push back and challenge it or correct it, because truth would interrupt the agenda, and we can't have that. So let's talk some actual history here. Okay, we need to bring some facts into the room because this was just crazy work. No one is arguing that lynchings and racial disparities and discrimination are not real. Yes, lynching is evil. It happened. It was incredibly barbaric. And because of that, though, y'all do realize lynchings were documented. They were public, and the ones that weren't public were still reported in the newspapers. This was a thing, right? We've got recorded court documents. Civil rights organizations tracked this kind of information. Lynchings weren't folklore whispered in the woods. So if we just apply some basic math, y'all, Pam Grier was born in 1948. That's almost like 1950. By the mid-20th century, y'all, lynching in America had been reduced so much and declined so much, it had effectively ended as a widespread practice, even before she was born, specifically and especially in Ohio. Like, there are no documented records of lynchings occurring in the state of Ohio during Pam Grier's childhood years. None. It ain't like they were underreported or they were just hidden and these folks were strung up on trees while she is walking on an army base or even in the community of an army base. This never happened. This broad is a liar. How does a person manufacture such foolishness like this and then have the boldness and the audacity to say it on network television? She said it because she knew. She invoked her privilege of being a Black woman, knowing ain't nobody gonna question it because this is her infinity stone, right? The part about all of this that was super embarrassing, in my opinion, was that Pam Grier is not some obscure figure. She's a friggin' Hollywood icon. If you watch this entire clip, they just went on extolling all of her accomplishments and how just friggin' amazing she was. This woman was breaking barriers and is considered a cultural pioneer, not just a Black one, but just a cultural pioneer of her time. This woman has experienced enormous success, and yet she still reached into the victimhood bag of tricks to pull out and manufacture sympathy. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why would she do this? Why? It's because on the left, achievement is never enough. Merit is never enough. Reaching the pinnacle of success and being able to live to tell the story about it, that doesn't even count. You can be rich, you can be famous, you can be celebrated by all of your peers and ethnic counterparts and the like. People of all ethnicities can celebrate you, but if you're not oppressed enough, you're irrelevant. So what do? Well, you must exaggerate. You have to embellish You just flat out lie. You do whatever you got to do. This is the same impulse that motivated Juicy Smollett to manufacture his lies about people in cold Chicago hollering at him, putting a noose around his neck, talking about you in MAGA country. Different scale. It's the same sick pathology. These people are sick. Victimhood is not only a career strategy, but I believe it is a mental illness. These people are crazy. They are crazy. I sit and I listen to them and I'm like, why on earth does Black America, why are they clinging to eternal victimhood like this? Like I told y'all, I don't know, but somebody must have told these people that this was virtuous and that this was a pathway to relevancy. But the truth that nobody wants to say is that the reason that the coloreds, yes, I call them the coloreds, they keep doing this is because victimhood gives these people moral immunity. I told you, these Blacks ain't honest. Not like you and I. Like we're like, you know what? Even if the truth hurts, we're going to engage with the truth. These Blacks, they're dishonest. Like if you are a failure or an old washed up actress, you can hide behind your victimhood status and you don't even have to explain your failure or the reason why ain't nobody calling you for jobs. You don't have to explain anything. You don't even have to justify your choices. You can just use your victimhood as some sort of emotional leverage and it gives you freedom from accountability, right? These people are out here bearing false witness. And now it's just become acceptable because as long as you do it in the name of race, it's automatically baptized as good. And I know I'm about to make some people mad. But the truth is, if the left really cared about Black people, if they really cared about disparities and injustice, because Black Lives Matter and all, not just if they just cared about Black outcomes, like if they just looked and surveyed the state and the condition of the Black community today and said, you know what, we really care, they wouldn't be platforming all of this dramotional folklore on daytime TV. They would, however, they'd be talking about what's happening to Black people like right now, not what happened between the years of 1949 and 1960. What were you, Pam, 10 when this happened? I'd be like, well, what were you, 6? Were you 4? How old were you, Pam, when this happened? Because we're struggling to understand and put on a timeline if this is verifiable. So since you want to talk about lynching, right? Like we need to talk about how Black America today is metaphorically lynching themselves. Huh? Y'all, what do I mean? We need to talk about that. But the reason they don't want to talk about that is because that'll break the spell. That'll destroy the whole entire victim narrative because the most consistent threat to Black life today is not white men lurking behind a tree, waiting to string you up and lynch you. It's the culture of death and the death policies and the death culture that we tolerated and we've invoked upon ourselves. Like we're doing it to ourselves, right? So if you care about Black lives, why are we not talking about these Black outcomes? Like, why aren't we comparing the number of Black people who were historically murdered by whites by way of lynching and then compare that to the Black babies who are lynched in the womb, assassinated, womb assassination by way of abortion by their own mamas? Why we won't talk about those outcomes or the Black people that are murdered by other Black people in their own communities? Like that math doesn't just shift. But what happens if you're an honest dealer and you actually want to have an honest discussion, you'd realize that, well, that kind of obliterates the narrative. So maybe that's why we can't talk about that. That's not me being emotional. No, that's me looking at our outcomes and dealing with what is. Not some lynching that happened in the 40s, but this is me looking at today's outcomes and dealing with reality. But you will never hear The View. They will never make such a comparison. You will never hear them say, why are we screaming about the past, but silent about the present? Because, I'm sorry, modern Black death, they don't want to talk about that because it's not politically convenient. Like, you don't get a round of applause by talking about modern Black death. Modern Black death doesn't give them a villain. Remember, they have to have a villain that they can campaign against. And it doesn't work because modern Black death, it forces you to have a conversation about the one thing the left hates. That's accountability. They despise the family. There's a war. They are at war with not just God, but the idea of fatherhood. They don't want to talk about crime, poor educational outcomes, anything that's going to lead them on a pathway of repentance or personal accountability. They don't want to talk about that. Those are things that Democrats hate. And they hate it because they don't want Black people healed. They need to keep Black people hooked. Just give them a shot. Give them some victimhood serum straight to the veins. Keep them hooked on grievance. Have them out here tweaking and crashing out and rage baited and grieved about everything. That's what they want. They want you hooked on a permanent sense of just helplessness. It's their religion. That's why I call it the theology of helplessness. They're trained in it. And sadly, this is the second older person that I have seen that is Black who's preaching it. The theology of helplessness. It ain't your fault. It doesn't matter that you've overcome and you've just achieved heights of greatness to be proud of. You have to default back to the look at what they did to us. It's these older Blacks that are doing it. They're the ones preaching this mess. Ain't this woman like 76 years old? They're preaching this because if you think and believe and internalize that you are permanently oppressed, you'll permanently outsource all of your power, waiting for someone else to come save you, i.e. the white liberal. And you'll just keep voting for the same people every cycle. No matter how bad your outcomes get, that's what they are training you to do. So ask yourself, why are they crying about Black lives all on camera and using it as some sort of colloquial slogan? But these people are the ones that support systems that profit off of Black death, right? They're dishonest. These people are dishonest. Why is there a whole Black female sorority, Delta Sigma Theta? Why are they supportive of Planned Parenthood if Black lives matter so much? Explain that one to me. Why did Kamala Harris kick off her presidential campaign at an abortion clinic if Black lives matter so much? Why do any of these people? Why do they act like they care about Black trauma? But they won't talk about the Black on Black violence with the same intensity, and do not come to me talking about, well, people kill people, who are in close proximity, as if that now somehow all of a sudden makes it okay. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that argumentation, and I'm like, you know what? You liberals are y'all show enough low IQ. They are low IQ for thinking that argument makes sense or somehow absolves Black people from the accountability of killing their own people. Well, since they live next to each other, that's why it's a lot of Black on Black crime. So you mean to tell me if we just move all the criminals and plop them smack dead in the middle of white folks, would they start slaughtering the white people too? Would we allow that? Would that somehow make it okay and acceptable No, but this is the way these dumb dingbats argue. You sound retarded when you say that. You just do. And why is an old Hollywood black actress weaponizing a story about hanging bodies in trees, but she ignores the bodies that are in the morgue right now? Huh? None of this is or was ever about saving black people. These people don't care about blacks. They are using black people. They're using black people, and we're the proximate cause of far too much of our own devastation. Let's take white people. I know the black liberal is obsessed with the white man. I told you it's because they love their masters' dirty draws. That's why they always talking about the white man and white supremacy and white privilege, because they really want their master to love them. And they want to be seen and be in a positive view in the eyes of their master. But they too stupid to realize that why do you want them to love you if you claim they're oppressing you? But that's another discussion. But this is why I keep saying black liberals choose their own slavery every single day, because they keep listening to other brain dead so-called leaders who all they do is disciple these people into dysfunction. And then they tell you that to be accountable for yourself is oppression. That's a lie straight from hell, but it's a lie that they perpetuate. This is why I don't have no respect for the black liberal. And I don't even want to live nowhere near black liberals. I don't. So, as I wrap this up, I don't know if Pam Grier thought that she was going to somehow expose America, right? I don't know what she thought this was going to end up, but all she did was expose herself to be a liar, right? And expose a culture that they would rather protect lies than to confront truth, right? And The View, they did exactly what it was designed to do. This whole show, they platform grievance. They absolutely have to suppress the facts, and they will manufacture fake outrage because they're nothing but an arm, a propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. These people are shameful. Absolutely shameful. They ain't got no shame. But the good news is, even in light of that, y'all, truth still matters. That's why you have platforms like this. Like Black Americans, we don't need to live off of old recycled trauma to have dignity. And I'm sorry, my identity is not tied to the grievance industry. I don't think in these kinds of categories. There's no virtue in having these kinds of discussions and remembering about what they had did to us. Because first of all, most people who always talking like that have experienced nothing close to being oppressed. But if you guys like me are tired of these lies dressed up as lived experience, they live in their truth, they're lying. I want you to drop a comment down below. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you like content like this. I serve it truth. I serve truth straight with no chaser. And would love for you to share this video with someone who still thinks that their feelings outrank the facts. But I'm curious to know what you think. Leave me a comment down in the description box below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.